Stereo sound.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Rare groove, revival, slow jams, up front, old school.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us with Mars versus Venus. Today, I've got a couple guests with me. I've got Cheryl and Kobana. And so today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how men and women think differently, how our brains are wired, if they're hard set that way, and what can we do about this. So first, to start off, we're going to play a little video. It's just a couple minutes. We're going to play some audio for you guys to listen to. And if you're joining us in cyberspace on iliveradio.com, by all means, you can give some comments. You can ask some questions. We're definitely ready to take your comments or concerns. As well as you can hit me up on Twitter. It's Patrick O. Morris, at Patrick O. Morris, or at iLive Web Radio. Are we ready for that video? All right, good stuff.
We're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right? Now, men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We've got a box for the money. We've got a box for the job. We've got a box for you. We've got a box for the kids. We've got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is, the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway, okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's just... It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. All right. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. Now, they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that and watched the brain activity, then all of a sudden, I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing.
Yes.
Does it drive women crazy when they see a guy not doing anything?
When there are things to be done, yes. Just do it.
Just do it?
Yeah. Get it over with.
What do you think, Kobe? Do you like your nothing box? Does that exist for you?
I don't know. I think the concept of nothing box is like there's a box for that, but I don't know if there's actually a nothing box. There is. There's a nothing box, and I think it's good. And that's why people do yoga. That's why women do yoga. Maybe they have their.
They're trying to find the nothing box. Is that what
the
you
yoga
think?
quiets the mind, right? Yeah. So
That's the nothing box.
that's
there.
a nothing box for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite place? Is the nothing box?
No.
No?
No, I get pretty bored. I guess the woman's side of my maleness wants to do something all the time. I'm always thinking.
So why is it so frustrating when you see a guy who just not doing anything?
I don't know if it's frustrating seeing a guy not doing anything, but if it's a guy that I know, and I know that there's a task to be done, why are you wasting time? Why are you doing nothing? Just do it.
So, okay, from a woman's perspective,
Right.
do you guys have a nothing box? Or is, like Kobna was saying, yoga is your way of trying to find a nothing space or something like that? Are you guys always thinking?
Always thinking. Well, for me, personally, I'm always thinking. And I think when I first started yoga, it was the first time that the mind actually was quiet. And I couldn't believe it. I was, wow. And it felt good. It felt good, but it's something that we have to learn to do. We don't do it naturally. Women don't do it naturally. I don't do it naturally.
So when you started yoga, you found the nothing box.
I found the nothing box.
And it was good.
And it was good, but it could but the nothing box meant that, well, it's funny. The nothing box I thought initially was, oh my God, I'm going to be wasting time. But it didn't work out that way. Having the nothing box gave me the ability to create more time. And I found through yoga, I was able to do that. When I quiet the mind, I was able to then see exactly what I wanted, what needed to be done. And I got it done in very little time.
So you found
as opposed to the mind being so erratic.
Yeah.
With the mind being quiet, I was able to accomplish more.
Why do you think the mind is erratic?
Why my mind is it's erratic. I think it's erratic because there's so many things to do. There's so many things there's so many responsibilities. I'm wired this way where I have to be doing something. Just to sit still like that, there must be something to be
You
done.
got that from the video.
No, I think I got that. No, I got that from growing just how I am. I'm wired that way. Have to be doing something. I look, oh, something on the carpet. Let's pick it up. Well, maybe I should just vacuum the carpet. Okay, done. Oh, need to fold some clothes. Just do that. I need to go out and do something else. But you know what I mean? Just to relax. So I've had to learn to quiet the mind to relax.
So is the perception then that if you're taking that, call it quiet time, that you're not doing anything, that the person's lazy or the person's not productive?
Initially, I thought that.
Yeah.
I think, oh my God, it's so lazy. But that's not true. I think if it's important to a person, I really don't think there's a lazy person. I think if a task is important, it will get done. If it's not as important, someone will put it on the back burner.
So as a guy, clearly you're a guy. When you have those times, those quiet times, I guess when you enter the nothing box, what's that for you? What's that like for you?
It's like yoga without the exercise and meditation without my eyes being open. I don't know. It's really, yeah, I like the nothing times because I actually do. I don't know if it's because I'm a very creative person. I create things all the time, concepts and things. So if I get any stretch of time, I can just do absolutely nothing. Is great, but it doesn't really happen. My mind still goes into something to contemplate at least.
So it's really not a nothing box.
It's really not a nothing box. It's
Is
an
it-
it's an absence of everything except for one or two
One
things.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
just decreases to
See,
that.
but because with nothing, there's potential to fill it with something.
Mhm.
But if it's filled, you can't actually fill it again.
Like fishing,
think
I would
so.
like fishing. You know, just I used to have fish. I used to have like 10 aquariums and just watch the fishing.
No.
Was
You
that
know,
your
think of
nothing
names for them. Yeah,
space?
that was nothing. Like that fish is going there. Now he's going there. Oh look! Oh, he went down to the gravel. Oh, he found a flake. Good. He ate it. It's like that was my nothing. It was great.
No way. No.
I didn't have to think. I just watched the fish.
I think my nothing is nature.
Like TV.
So if I walk, if I go to a park, if I'm in nature, that quiets the mind. That's my nothing time, I think.
Okay, so
I'm
the
not
other-
watching fish.
Not watching
Sorry,
fish?
no.
That wouldn't work for you?
No.
While you're doing yoga, maybe?
No.
If you're surrounded by fish?
No.
Because they do use,
Oh,
aquatic sounds when you do yoga.
Mm.
Maybe.
Actually, not in
it's a
no,
simulation.
not when I do yoga. No,
Ah.
there's no sounds at all except for your breathing. So,
The other thing he also talked about was the ability to, I guess, compartmentalize things. So he said with women, everything is connected, and with men, we have our boxes that we separate things. And for us, keeping things separate is a big thing. Do you guys agree with that? Cheryl, do you think women connect everything?
we do, but we have our departments, our compartmental devices, but the doors open more frequently.
Mm.
I think so. It's not closed. It's easily open, easily accessible, and because we'll remember some strange things. Oh, I remember that. And you'll ask your boyfriend, "Oh, do you remember so and so?" No. What do you mean? I just told you. You guys don't remember. I guess it's not important to you.
It's a detail of.
I don't know.
That's-
Kona, you
that's
think
outside
We
the box.
remember
That's an
detail.
outside the box detail.
outside the, so you just remember what's
Oh,
you just remember
what's
what's
in
in
the
the
box.
box, and all the details around in the box is not important.
Yeah, the only
ever-
important is a tactical maneuver to get to the thing that's
Really?
important.
Do you ever think that the things around the box affect what's in the box?
Yes, like humidity, dampness, mold. No, actually, I think it's
Mildew?
interesting. Yeah,
Or not?
that can be outside around the box. I think it's interesting because I find that doing entertainment things with music or performance, that most of the things that I see organized, most of the people I work with are women. Women are actually, they organize everything, they really run everything. There's a bunch of guys that stand on top of stuff and do stuff, but it's really women running everything for me, like most of the stuff I do, and organizing it. And I rely on them because I know they interconnect things. So they can
That's
see the
true.
effect of this, and I learn when I'm looking at the setup of a room or lighting, I'm considering the light, the shadow, that's when I could, but to me, that is the one box for me, is like, that's all inside the box. And then you see it's the women who will come and say, you know what, but we don't have towels for this, and there should be this in the washroom, and we're like, oh yeah.
I guess
that
because
was
we're,
the broader.
yeah, we're nurturers. We want to make that. We want to make sure the experience is enjoyable as well, right?
So yeah, there's more
everything that's going,
consideration of
exactly,
other aspects and other boxes that need to be taken care of.
exactly, not just the box.
And then the guys are just more like, okay, this, we still have that. Our thing is like the right tool for the right job or whatever. It's like this thing needs to be done, and then you need that, and then we consider the other box. What do we need for that one? But it's not connected. I don't think the thought process is connected the same way. I think everything gets covered, but it's not. I think the way it connects is different.
It sounds like what you guys are saying is when, you know, in the example that you're giving, when you go there, you're looking at, you know, this needs to happen, that needs to happen, and you're thinking about it more from a more linear. And then from what you're saying, you're looking at everything else, and you're, you know, if there's no tiles in the bathroom,
inclusion,
somebody's,
yeah.
you know, somebody that might affect somebody in a different way. You're thinking a little bit more rounded.
Yes.
We're gonna take a 30-second break for station identification. But when I get back, I want to talk a little bit about the roundedness and the linear approach, because you know, even with what he was saying about just how the guys just focus on what's in that box, and then the woman, everything is interconnected, and he said that it was more about the feeling, about the experience, wherein the guy is more thinking about just what he's focusing on, what's in that particular box. And you know, a lot of times you hear guys can only focus on one thing. You know, guys are not good multitaskers, and women are good multitaskers. Is that necessarily true? So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to take a minute to identify the station right now. Thanks, guys.
The internet's #1 on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
I think it's getting some feedback from that.
Thanks for sticking out with us and for hanging out with us on Mars versus Venus. Today we're talking with Kobna and Cheryl. Just before the break, we were talking a little bit about you know, the video that we'd seen earlier, but we were talking more about from a guy's perspective, we tend to focus on what's in the box, and what he had said was that the women tend to attach feelings or emotions to whatever the situation is. Is that necessarily true? Even along with that is, as guys, we get accused that we can't multitask, and that women are multitaskers and we're not. Is that true?
Generally, I would say yes. Men don't multitask.
I
but-
multitask very well.
But no, I'm speaking generally here. Okay, all right. But I think in the connectivity, that's how the universe runs. The universe is not linear. Everything is happening at the same time, all the time. And it's you plug in and you plug out. And I think that's what we do as women. So our feelings is very important, because our feelings tell us, okay, something might not be right. It's an additional mechanism, sensing mechanism, to tell us whether something is going right or wrong. Whereas I don't think it's as heightened for men as women. Men do think emotionally, I think, but because I think emotion is what drives you to do things, right? You have the thought, you have the emotion. It allows you to then to start the task, whether you're in the emotional state as you're implementing the task, maybe not, but the emotion is, I think emotion is what drives you to success. You have to be passionate about something in order to be successful at it, and that's emotion.
You're the guy on this. What do you think?
I'm thinking, I'm listening to him, I'm thinking in terms of the multitasking aspect. Again, for me, for what I do, is multitask all the time.
Okay.
If it's playing music, I might be playing guitar in the band. I might even be doing the guitar solo or something solo or singing in front, but my mind is on everything everybody else is doing and the audience. So that's in the
Okay.
performance aspect.
Okay, I see.
With a job, I'm thinking, I'm looking at, the staircase we came up and thinking, or came down to, I'm thinking, hammer and nail.
So can I ask
There
you a
ain't
question?
no emotion to building a staircase. It's like nail, 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 hammer, hammer, hammer.
Until-
I don't need to have passion about it. My
Until the
passion is
hap-
if I hit my finger with the hammer,
That's
then I get a
emotional.
passion. There's emotion. But even that has nothing to do. The job just has to get done. And I think that's how
So
guys
what-
do stuff in a
well-
linear, non-emotional. Just like, never mind you're happy or sad. Who cares? This is what we're
This
supposed
is not,
to do.
I'm not talking about happy or sad, but the emotion is what drives it. What drives you to accomplish things, right? Like, let me ask you a question: Can you wash the dishes and clean the kitchen at the same time? So, or cook and make sure that when you're finished cooking, the kitchen is clean?
I tend to do that.
Oh, okay, all right. Most men, I think,
Thanks, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
most men leave the kitchen in a mess, and then you go, oh,
I do that too. But I have no emotion about either one.
But you made a valid point, though. Can you cook? Like, can you be preparing something and be washing the dishes at the same time? It's either you're washing the dishes, you're taking a break from cooking to wash the dishes, or you're taking a break from washing dishes to cooking. Is multitasking really possible?
I think it is with some thought and planning, right? You have to plan. Okay, so I have this amount of time. I need to get this done. So I'm going to do this, and while this is happening, I'll do this.
But you're still just focused on one thing at a time.
Yes, but you're preparing. You're doing it so that it is all accomplished within that one time. So within that one time, you can do more than one thing.
See, personally, I think multitasking is a myth.
I don't believe that.
I think it's a myth.
I don't
Because,
know.
again, you can only physically be actually doing one thing at a time.
Oh no.
You can physically do one thing at a time, but emotionally, you can do more than one thing.
But then multitasking is not necessarily just a physical act.
Exactly.
Like
That's true. That's
the
true.
tour I was just
Being
finishing with the play, I was playing literally about 15 instruments, and I play 3 or 4 at a time, while watching technically what's happening on the stage
Okay.
and playing different.
Let me ask
So
you
it's
a
a
question.
multitask.
Let me
can do
ask you a
it.
question then.
And it's
How does a
emotional.
drummer play?
It's emotional?
A drummer
Yeah.
plays the drum. It's one drum. It's an instrument. But he's doing things with his feet. It's a different rhythm than his hands, right? So you're doing more than one thing at a time.
Well, the whole thing, if it's on a drum set,
Yeah,
then
drum set.
it's overall a task. But even those drummers, they have to take training to be able to separate their left
so
hand
you
from the
can
right
learn.
hand.
Oh, so you
Yeah,
can
but
learn.
sometimes they're doing this hand, and this hand's doing something totally different,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
a training. And then watching the band at the same time is another training.
But we
like,
as women,
for me.
we learned that. That's how we were trained. We were trained that way. So
So is it an innate ability or is it a trained ability?
both. Both.
I think it depends on what sphere we're looking at. If it's the
Exactly.
family or taking care of my kid is in one arm and I'm frying chicken wings in the other hand or whatever it is. That's a multitasking. And while you're frying, you're thinking, don't let the frying oil get on my baby. So that's, there's emotional attachment because the kid is not going to eat chicken wings. Sorry. See, what do I know? But anyway, I was trying to tie in the attachment between the frying the chicken wing and feeding the baby, but not letting the baby get burned. The guy will be like, it's okay to get a little bit of oil. You got to live, tough life. So I don't know. I think it depends which area we're looking at, whether it's purely emotional or between men and women when they have to relate.
No, I don't think it can't be just emotional. It has to be. It has to be.
Talking
little bit
about
of
the
both.
emotional piece, you did say something earlier in regards to, and I might be, totally bastardizing what you said, but you're saying that women were more emotional than men are. Is it that women are more emotional, or it's just that we display our emotions
I think
differently?
we display it differently. I
Mhm.
think we display it differently. And men are taught not to really show that emotion, that side of themselves. So, for example, a little boy might be crying, "Oh, come on, tough it up." But, he's hurt. He's expressing his feelings, but he's not really taught to do that. So
So it's our mom's fault, is what
we
you're
don't,
saying.
we don't, I'm not
Dad's
saying
fault.
that at all, because I'm a mother.
Dad's fault.
It's our mom's fault for telling us, tough it up, you're a man. What do you think, Hope?
No.
Do you
That's
thi- do you
interesting.
think-
I think
Mothers
we-
usually go,
Do you
"Aw,"
think
and
that
kiss
we-
the knee. Fathers go, "Come on, be a man."
Do you think we display emotions differently?
yeah, I think there's a time is the same, but I think there's some hardwired things that are about the energy of male and female anyway. Like, has it go differently? I don't know. Like, yeah, you get told when you're a kid, if you're a boy, just be tough, and if you're a girl, you'll be treated differently in terms of, oh, it's okay, even for boys. But I don't know if it's the man juice energy. Is that what's that?
The man juice.
Yes,
energy?
Yes,
Wow.
there's
That's
estrogen and
Not
there's
sure I want to get
androgen.
Oh, okay, that kind of juice.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm calling it the man, the juice
then-
energy, the energy juice, the internal flow of energy that seems to reacts differently to some things, and eventually it starts to come up, or it doesn't, comes up one way or the other.
Interesting.
But in our society today, though, there seems to be a lot of conversation about that men and women are kind of the same, and that we're equal and we're the same, and women can do whatever a man can do, or a man can do whatever a woman can do, and that we're just all the same. And what do you guys think about that?
I think men and women are created equally, not necessarily equal. There are certain things that I can do that a man can't, giving birth for one. I think there's, like I was saying earlier in the car, there's initially a man can lift a certain amount of weight. I mean, I would have to be lifting weights for a certain time to maybe achieve that. But I think the initial strength is different, right? And it's distributed differently between men and women. So that's not necessarily equal, but it's equally proportioned, right?
What do you think, Cobb? Are men and women equal and the same?
I think equal. I think even just defining what the word equal actually means is also part of the argument that happens. Because there's financial equality, there's physical, there's spiritual, and I don't think there's really many, would it be quantitative or qualitative assessments of what equality is in a spiritual kind of way, or just male and
Right.
femaleness, like we're coming from a man and a woman, so we have elements of both to make each one of us, and then it gets defined one way or another,
Exactly.
or another way, and it's sometimes two ways at the same time, and then sometimes 50, 70,
That's but well, that's what I
So
mean
that's
about
what I wonder.
being created equally. But so the distribution of it is different, but we're not equal. So it's like, if I asked you to do the same task as, I might do it differently than you. That's not equal. It's different. I'm implementing it differently, right?
Yeah, but then that's the thing that gets done, the thing that is accomplished, as opposed to the state of being.
Okay.
Of male and female. And I
I
think some of
understand.
those states of being can't really change, or they're set physically by how we come out.
We're going to take another quick break, but before we do, when we come back from break, I want to talk a little bit about how society on a whole, there are some women that would be very passionate, against what you were saying about that
I'm
men and women
sure.
are created equal, but are not equal. And there are a lot of guys in today's society who are kind of looking at women to sort of define what it should look like. You know, and you go to get into a relationship with somebody. There's so many things from a guy's perspective. You know, back in the 50s or 60s, the guy went to work. You know, he had a defined role.
Right.
The woman stayed home. You know, she cooked and looked after kids, child rearing, that sort of thing. In today's society, there seems to be so much. You know, you got fathers who are staying home
Yeah,
now.
both could happen.
And the wife's going out to work. There's a bit of a shift in that regards. Then you have, there's a, you know, you look at the metrosexual guy. Some people might look at it and say, well, you know, masculinity is becoming a little bit more feminine. And then there are women who are becoming, quote unquote, more masculine in how they do things. So when we come back from break, I just want to spend a little bit of time and talk about, you know, what's society's influence in terms of relationships now, and what are the roles? Like, how do you figure that out as a guy? You know, how do you figure that out? And as a woman, how do you figure that out?
Okay.
Back to back. iLive Radio. The best internet radio station around. iLive Radio, the new social network.
Welcome back. So before we took the break, I said when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, men and women in relationships, and how do you kind of find your footing today when there's so much out there in terms of, from a guy's perspective, you know, what a guy should be now versus before, and from a woman's perspective, you know, what a guy's looking at a woman thinking that she should be a certain way, and the roles are not that simple anymore. Like, how you know, if the two of you sitting here, you know, if you decided, you know, you're kind of cute and you're kind of cute and you guys want to work this out, how do you find that balance? You know, how do you look at each other and say, okay, this is what my role is going to be, this is what your role is going to be in today's society, when everybody's being told everybody's equal, everybody's the same, everybody can do everything? How do you do it?
Wow, that's a loaded question. How do you do it? You just be human, and part of that is communicating, right? Sometimes you have to surrender your ego, and
Women have egos?
oh gosh, we do. Well, and sometimes we can be wrong and strong, and that's an issue. And
Wrong
so,
and strong.
really, you know what I
Okay.
mean? And so we have to learn to temper that, and we have to just be honest and be open, and part of that is communication in defining those roles. And you meet someone that you click with and you want to move forward, the communication has to be there, and an understanding, okay, we're going to do this together, and do it.
Okay, so what are you communicating though? Like,
But I mean,
so
likes,
okay, you're
dislikes,
looking at him.
behaviors.
What do you
what
do you
tolerate,
start off by
tolerance.
saying you sort, okay, so you meet Kobna and you think you're a nice guy, seems all right. What do you say? You say, look, I expect you to take out the garbage on Tuesday. Like, how do you work? Like, what do you communicate?
No,
Those are
that's demand.
Those are
right?
tasks, and then I
Yeah,
don't think it's the same
exactly.
as the connection level of communication. I'm even thinking about all this thing going, there's the whole other aspect, the whole LGBT side of the
Q,
thing.
yeah.
And then the part nobody talking about, that like nobody talks about, is the XYZ ETC. You know,
I have
the
no
new
idea what
creation.
that means.
well, let's
You know,
exactly.
Be there.
You see, that's how little people talk.
XYZ.
Nobody heard about it. Like, you didn't hear about it till now. It's well, I'm just talking. You know, XY chromosome is kind of what we're
Okay.
talking about. So I added an extra one called the Z, and then ETC is an etc.
I got it.
You know, these other possibilities that are out there because of science.
Right.
You know, or when someone is born as a Siamese twin and they're connected, and the doctor says, "We only have enough to go around for one of you, so you're gonna be a boy and you're gonna be a girl."
Mm-hmm.
They might have both been boys before.
Or it could have been opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the doctors decided. and then what happens when they reach puberty age, and what happens in the body and the mind, and you've been
question.
made into a girl when you were supposed to be a boy, or like all those kind of things. How do those people, and that has been, I mean, that's science, you know, in the last how many decades, but before then,
How did we
all
do it
these things
before?
happened before, you know. So
Yeah.
I think about the communication and that, you know, equality and all those things in that area. Different social structures or cultures have ways of dealing with all these variations of identity of male and female, or you know, the combinations of identities of male and female, or whatever. They have different ways of dealing with it in different parts of the world. So
I'll come back to the
So
question in a second, but there was,
societal
so you bring up a bit of a valid point there, and that is, like, how, is there should there be a definition in terms of gender roles within relationships with people? Does it really matter?
I think there is. I think it's always I think it's there. So you have to use it as it is, I think. Like
Exactly.
if we're talking about the physical things like of strength, and where, you know, there are a lot of women, they don't look really powerful, but they can lift a hippopotamus
But
or
they're
whatever.
strong,
Like,
yeah,
they
yeah.
got power. It just, the muscle definition doesn't show it the same way, but they can actually be stronger than the guy that's standing next to him looking buff, you know. So there's one thing. But I think also just in life and in communication, people have their thing that's important to them that they want to do or be responsible for. So I used to, you know, in a relationship I was in, I would look at the woman I was with, and she would be sitting on the couch sleeping. And I was looking out at the snow, and I said, what I want to do if I marry this woman is I want her to be able to be sitting in this couch or a couch while there's a hurricane outside, sleeping because she knows Kobe's taking
You're
care of
protecting
everything.
her.
Yeah,
I see.
that's what I want.
See, but
Whether or
there's
not
certain-
she wants that, I don't know. She
I guess
probably
there's
would.
certain innate.
So the
It
the,
is what
the
it is.
role that you would see yourself as is a protector.
Well, because that person or my family is important to me. So that's what I want for myself. Whether, you know, that's something I should have gained from how my parents were. But I could also gain it if my parents were not that way. It might be something I'd want that I didn't have.
I think
So
there's
that's
certain.
not, that's an
yeah,
emotional drive,
right,
but it
right.
might also be something inherent that I don't know where else I would have. I
Where
had
you
that
would've-
feeling from
yeah,
a long
I see
time
what
when
you
I
mean.
was a kid, and I wasn't thinking of marrying anybody, not even kiss a girl with cooties and stuff. So,
Oh,
you know, I was,
You're
no,
funny.
but I would still take care of my neighbor, my sisters, whatever. That
Right.
was still already
Right,
there.
right.
So that would be my role.
so you're
naturally.
saying that they're innate roles then, like
Yeah.
as a male protector. But I think female, we have that role too as a protector. You come against our children, and you know we'll show you.
And then how that
you
role
can
gets defined.
and you can see
is-
that in the you can see that also in the animal kingdom as well.
Mhm.
Right, shield. The mother will protect
Yeah.
her
So if you
children.
you know, if you the whole gender question is huge.
Oh yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of blurring of the lines in terms of roles that we all sort of play with one another. But how do you define for yourself? So, you know, some teenager who's sitting here, who's listening, looking at life, thinking, you know, what am I going to be about? Who am I going to be at? How do you then define what that is for you?
I guess what's more dominant, then you display that. So if the more dominant is female for me, then that's what I display. And I think what you're seeing now is in even I'm a female and the dominant could be masculine, and I guess you still have the freedom to display that. Right?
So are our roles defined based on our sexuality? Or our
Wow.
gender, I should say? You think our roles?
I think some
I
of
don't
them
think
are,
it's limited to
but it's not limited to, yeah.
your gender.
Yeah, I think there's all those aspects of the physical, the gender, the
The
social,
emotion, the social.
the emotional
yes.
one, the cultural one. They're all different. But I think in North America, there's supposed to be a liberty here of, you know, do things the way you want your family to not do this celebration or do this one, then you all have choice. In some parts of the world where they have like culture is so important and tied to the nationality, even tied to ethnicity in some area, is a harder thing to make that choice when your cultural choice or your so personal family choice is against the entire culture. Whereas here, it's like there's not a culture here. There are a whole bunch of cultures existing here, but none of them really defines
There's a
what's
really
Canada, let's
societal
say.
culture.
There's
I
a
see.
society thing. There's a
Right.
way we function as society, but it's not cultural. Canada Day is not a cultural celebration. It should be. They try to make it with the different colored balloons, you know, and fried chicken and pizza. But, you know, it's not really
I do want to
cultural.
ask you something because you have I guess, a slightly a different experience in that you weren't born here, so you experienced culture back in the motherland in terms of masculine culture there, what it meant to be a man there, and then coming to Canada. You know, what were some of the what's the contrast?
I know you're gonna like this one because African women have more masculine toughness kind of role than men do over here. You know, like black women in general. If you look at any, you know, African diasporic family and see the role a black woman is playing in it, is often equal to or above or beyond in many aspects than the men. So if you go to, let's say, a village in Ouagadougou or somewhere, and there's guys who are warriors. If they're taking care of cows or whatever, you see, you know, they have a shepherd boy, he's over there watching the cow, and the guys are lying under the tree going, what are the women doing? Women are doing
All the
the
work.
water,
Yeah.
the laundry, the cooking, building the house, taking care of the kids, organizing the festival thing coming. They're doing everything. And the guys, the tough warrior guys with all the muscles, are chilling under the tree, taking care of the cows. And
Why?
because there's nobody to fight yet.
So I need to find a tree to I need to find a
I'm
tree to
really-
chill under.
No, no, no,
I'm really
I
gen-
understand.
Is that what
I
you're-
I'm really
understand.
generalizing,
I
like
got
I'm
it.
really generalizing to the village kind of aspect.
Mhm.
In that same country, you go to an office thing, it's a different thing. But there might be the guy sitting at the desk saying, yes, I want to report on my desk tomorrow. And who's doing the report? You're the one doing the report. So it's like, it's the same thing. And that's in North America also.
Well, in here, North America, anyone could have been doing that report. You can have your female boss asking you for that as well.
That's the thing. And then some people in some places, they get to hear and they're not used to seeing that.
Yeah.
I even think sometimes women are not used to having a guy direct them. Like in my experience with working where is women actually running a lot of stuff, I've been in situations where I'm the guy saying, but you know, this should be like this. And it's almost like, what did he say? You know, and I know women have said, oh, you know, I'm there as the only woman, and I was doing it, and I said, but shouldn't we? Then they're just like, anyway, you know, like that same feeling has been reversed. A lot of times I've seen that, where it's that energy, that conflict of energies not synchronizing.
So-
And the different ways of communication between the men and the women just not working. So,
So
we
how does
say
one-
the same thing, and it's like two different things,
That's
but it's
right.
the same thing.
How do we synchronize that energy then?
Well, actually,
Can the
synchronize-
energies be synchronized?
That's a very good question. The before I get to that though, with what you were talking about in the village life, is there still such a great divide in terms of men and women being in sync with one another, from what you've seen
You mean just in general?
in general? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Because even in terms of like rules that might be defined by culture, when you get to a social thing, and this, let's say, North American social order has been created by some white guys from Europe, basically, who said we're going to do things this way, and they set everything up according to what they wanted for themselves in their original cultural and political and whatever power structure concepts they had. And then women here who've been free to eventually to vote and have education, all these things that they didn't have before, you know, a few hundred years ago or so. Now they're still butting up against that structure that says, oh, all men are created equal. They didn't say man and woman, and it didn't mean men, human beings. They didn't say all humans are created equal. Then they defined who's a man and who isn't. And that was it. they didn't even define anything else. They just said men. And then everybody's been fighting against what was their concept. Like they structured everything based on their concept, and we keep butting up against it in our quest for freedom within North America. So I think that's, without being able to see it communicated in school, grow up with it as a cultural thing, grow up with it as a family thing, you don't get educated on how this dynamic is actually holding you back all the time. While you're saying, hey, but I'm free, I can vote, I can, no, doesn't matter. You vote, you know, the structure doesn't give you any of that power. So women trying to have the power or express the power that they actually have inside of a structure that denies their power is just like black people trying to say, what about our whatever, when the hour is not even the structure to have you included in
I
our.
see. I see.
You know?
So
Interesting.
you're saying that the way that our society has been set up was set up fairly male focused, and to be able.
Entirely.
So what we should do? Just tear everything down and have anarchy until we start all over.
Rip it up and start again. Yeah. Well, this society of, you know, built on other people's everything, you know, it can only keep learning, but it just took what it wanted from the table and left everything else, and then dictated that everything left wasn't really valuable.
Well,
So
you
this is
can't,
why
exactly, you can't
midwives
do
are
that
now
anymore.
coming into hospitals and doing things, and it still bumps up against the nurses. This is women and women. The nurses there taking care of the newborn. The doctor might have been a woman, and a midwife or doula comes in, and then it's like conflict. Or you bringing that old traditional, put the baby on the chest thing, and no, the baby should go and be sterilized. Like, well, not that, no, sorry. Yeah, they do that too. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it however, like you. But, you know, the baby should be kept away. Like, all these total conflicts against the structure of the status quo or whatever here versus some really old knowledge.
Well, I think that's changing, and that has to change because, you know, that kind of structure it doesn't help with what's happening now. The society now is becoming smaller, it's becoming more global, and we're finding that people, you can't exclude people now. It can't be just male-defined society. It has to be inclusive.
Well, I think
It's the only
even-
way it's going to work.
But even what we're saying is inclusive now. Like if we're saying, oh, there's so and so in political office or whatever, they're still in that same structure.
I understand.
Which only gives them this
but that
much
will
room
take
to-
time. That will
yeah.
take time and education. Right?
We're gonna take another quick break, but before we do, you know, when we come back, I do want to talk a little bit something we touched on a little bit earlier, and that is, you know, there is a bit of a, I guess, I'm saying a blurring of lines because I really don't have a better word to phrase to use, but in terms of the genders, you know, there's the X, the Y, and as you said, there's the Z. You know, in school, kids are really being taught about inclusiveness. You know, within, you know, transgender, gay, LGBT. You know, all of that is impacting our society and is impacting, I guess, how we define ourselves and what roles we choose to take on, whether it be cultural or physical, or, you know, how we think about things, whether it be, you know, from an emotional place, because there are some guys who are very emotional and some women who are not as emotional. So when we come back from the break, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Thanks.
The internet's number one on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Welcome back. Now, there is a role for emotions on both sides of the fence, but I think generally there are a lot of guys who tend to think that being overly emotional is not helpful, and there are some women who just, you know, being able to display their emotion is something that's very important to them. As a straight guy and a straight woman, you know, how do you balance how you display your emotion, and you know, how do you receive that emotion, or what does that mean for you as a guy?
I think going back to, I guess, the analogy with the boxes, let's say there's a task to be done, whether it's in something in the family or something has to happen. I'm like, this is the thing we're actually dealing with. All the emotion around it, your passion into that decision is great. But when the passion becomes greater than the objective, then it just gets in the way of the objective. So I think a very like over emotional guy, because of the adrenaline and physicality and everything, is like this angry, big, obnoxious dude. I see if it's a woman and she's really like all that fire and all these things, I'm just putting a different type of energy thing. It has different way of interacting with people depending on how that display or that thing is expressed. So when I see at a job that, you know, it's at a factory and your supervisor is a jerk, it's like just annoys everybody. The guys in the factory will be like, the new supervisor is an idiot. They'll look at him, and depending on your job, they might even say it to the guy. Oh, that's because you're a jerk. And they'll go and do their job, and the supervisor, yeah, what did you say? You're calling me jerk? No, not really. Like, guys will have this way, they'll, like, the supervisor's a jerk, and then they'll go do the job with full passion of, supervisor's a jerk, and they'll do the job. Women, when I've been on jobs where they're like, I don't like doing supervisor. Yeah, I'm looking for something else. I can't work here. I just can't stand the energy. I don't like the energy here. People, I don't like, you know, I can't relate to him. I got a new manager. I just don't. And they're gone. But the guys are like, hate the new manager. Idiot, yeah. This company's going down the tubes. Yeah, man, we're finding something else. And then they keep working. But the women will be like, I can't take it anymore.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your experience?
That's my experience. Not that they don't care. Not that they care about that more than their job, but they're willing to say, if I don't like the energy here, if I don't like how I'm working with people on that level, I'll look for something else. The guys will put up with it and just keep doing it because their focus is on the money they want to make for the job only.
I work in a corporate environment where it's you do what you have to do, and so again, what you do is you compartmentalize that emotion. Is this emotion effective? The display of this emotion, is it effective for me to accomplish this task? If it's not, then it's put aside, and I use what's necessary to accomplish that task, and that's it. And women do that, and do it effectively.
So being able to separate how you feel from what needs to be done.
What needs to be done, most important.
Then how does the application of your passion for what you're doing, which you said is really important?
No, that's fine. I have the passion. I need to accomplish this. So the passion is what allows me now to put this emotion, negative emotion that's not conducive to the work I'm doing aside.
So that's out in the workplace. What about with somebody, your partner? Do you still
you have to do that too.
Do you still have the ability to do that with your partner?
You have to, but you see, more than likely, for me personally, that's where I'd come out and I'd talk to the person. And I'd say, okay, this is what's happening. I'm seeing this happening, and I don't think it's such a good thing. A, B, C, D, E, F. G, what do you think? Let's dialogue. And I'm hoping that the person
I'm in my nothing box right now. What did you say?
Honey, I want to talk to you.
The game's on, okay.
You say that to a guy, he turns off.
The game's on in 5 minutes, okay? When the game's done in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, if it's overtime, whatever, let's talk about whatever it was you just mentioned. Yeah.
Well, we have 5 minutes before the game. Let's talk.
5 minutes before the game, I'm getting the beer and the chips out, and I don't have time to talk about it.
I'll help you with the beer and chips. Let's talk.
Okay, you bring the beer and chips.
You can't get away, man. Can't get away.
You bring the beer and chips, and I'll sit here and wait till you got them here, and then we can talk at whatever time. Like, oh, look, I mean, the pre-game's on. Sorry.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for the beer.
Can you help how you feel about something?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, you can.
How so?
You can help how you feel.
Yeah.
You might not be able to.
So if you,
yes,
if you,
yes, with question marks.
if I say something to you,
Right.
and your feelings are hurt, what you heard may not necessarily be what I'm
Exactly.
saying, but your feelings are hurt.
That's my feelings are hurt, and then
Yeah.
I have to analyze why. Okay, this is me personally. If my feeling is hurt, I'm going to ask myself, okay, does this person truly know me? If this person knows me and knows the situation, and it's done to hurt me, I might be hurt, but I still have to talk to the person about it. Now, if the person really doesn't know anything about me, really, and has made a statement, a hurtful statement, it's easier for it to come off of my back.
Well, okay, take this, something a little closer. Somebody that your partner, right, does something that you feel hurts your feelings. It wasn't their intent. It wasn't that they were doing it on purpose.
Right?
But, you feel hurt based on what was done.
Okay, then I have to talk.
So, at the end of the conversation, would your feelings still be valid if what you were interpreting was not correct?
My feelings is still valid, but what I have to realize that it wasn't intentional, and it's valid because it happened, right? The feelings you can't take that away. You can't take that back. It's out there. It's done. But what I can do from this time forward is change it, right? I can transform that emotion based on the information that I have now, right? The information is now that it wasn't done intentionally. It was an oversight. Okay, fine. Then, I can handle it. I can deal with it. I can transition that emotion now and let it go.
I think what you're saying about transforming it and transition, that's in the communication and the way of assessing what just happened.
Exactly.
And that's probably a trained thing.
That's,
That has to be developed, I think, because as like the human animal level, it's like
It's
action,
different.
reaction.
I see.
What did you just say? So if you're a person trained or who naturally expresses themselves, right in the moment you might ask, what did you mean by that? Are you saying this? Then it's very clear, like, I'm taking it this way. Do you actually mean it that way? And then right away, it's cleared up, like, in the next communication, no, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, okay, because that's what I thought you meant. Then the no conflict actually happens.
Exactly.
If they're just thinking, what did you just say? And they don't actually want the answer.
Exactly. Well, that's
What did you just say? Did you just say? Yeah, that's what I said. And then without asking, what did you actually mean by that? Or what did you mean by that? Boom, conflict. So that's like how do we communicate?
But that's
what's
not effectiveness. If you want to be effective, you take the time, right?
And that's training, I think, like a development of
Okay.
either you're naturally a person who's just like, that
Understand.
child was always a person who asked you, what do you mean by that? Like if that was not there and they weren't trained into it, or
I see.
they had the parent that just was like, bloom, and that's in their genes now, that's the training that's natural for them, like not even training, that's in their genes. Or, yeah, if you get
don't
trained
even-
in the communication, I think then you think, why am I feeling upset by this thing? I think that's really like a high level of evaluation, not doubting yourself, not doubting your emotion, but actually asking yourself, why do I feel it this way? And what did you mean by that? That's really clear. Like, how am I assessing my own emotional mental state?
But I
in
think
the
a
light of
lot
this
of
thing?
people
That's
look at
really
the other
come
person,
high, I think.
look at the other person first and is thinking, well, you're making me
You
feel this
something-
way.
Yeah.
No.
Instead of asking themselves
No.
the
I think that's how
question.
I don't believe that. I believe the person doesn't make me feel a certain way. I make myself feel that way
But
because
I
I
think
chose
that's a
that
higher- that's
I
a
chose
higher
that
level.
emotion, right?
I think that's a higher level of
Okay.
Of thinking.
of thinking. Yeah,
Okay.
I think most
Okay.
people, their automatic thing is, you just said that and I feel this way, and you
Because-
caused it because you said
You
it.
see, and it's something that I say all the time. Your opinion has nothing to do with me. So, what really can you do to hurt me?
You're rather
it's your opinion. I try. You know what it is? I take time, and you have to go within, and you
She
have
goes
to
to yoga.
You know,
It's the
It's
yoga.
the
quiet
It's
mind.
the quiet box.
Yoga by I didn't look in that box yet.
It's being able to go to the nothing box.
That's the other nothing box. That's the one that's labeled nothing. and
Hot
it's-
yoga.
Okay,
Hot
why
yoga.
open
You know,
yoga?
it helps.
Right.
I want to thank you guys for being on the show with the discussion today. you know, we covered a lot of things, but clearly men and women, we do think differently. And, you know, if nothing else, out of this whole conversation, we've kept going back to our ability to be able to communicate with one another. I think one of the most powerful things that was said today is, which is really what we just discussed, and that is, rather than looking at the person and saying, you know, you're making me feel this way, is more about asking yourself the question, you know, why am I feeling this way? I think that's something that we often miss, is our ability to give the other person the benefit of the doubt, because they may not necessarily, they may not be aware of what they've done.
The power.
Yeah,
You know, for you to say that you made me feel this way. I'm giving you power, that you have power over me to dictate my emotions. No, I'm sorry. I won't give you that power.
Why are they feeling that they've expressed it?
I should take responsibility for my own emotions and you know, and empower myself. Yeah.
So I think that you know, as we go forward and try to build bridges in terms of how we see the world very differently, communication is a huge piece, and really self-reflection, and whether it's, you know, hot yoga helping you to get to your quiet box,
or fishing,
getting you into your
fishing.
Nothing box. You know, we need to be able to find the time to be able to self-reflect and find that spot. I want to thank you. Well, thank you guys. Work with me here. Well, thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, we can get into the discussion, but we're out of time. Thank you very much for being on the
You're
show.
welcome.
And I'll talk with you guys next week.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The internet's #1 on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio. Music back to back to back. iLive Radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Rare groove, revival, slow jams, upfront, old school. The best internet radio station around. iLive Radio, the new social network.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
The Soul Expressions Show with DJ Session. The Soul Expressions Show with DJ Session.